Hello, everyone. We're going to give folks just another moment or two to be joining us. So if you're here, thanks so much for coming for this webinar about getting your school year off to a great start and starting with a bang. So we'll give folks just another moment to join us. All right. Hello, welcome. We're so glad that you're here. My name is Amy Kynes, and I'm president and lead trainer of Ready, Aim, Teach. And if you are an educator and if you are interested in having a fantastic, great, and award-winning year for yourself and for your students, then congratulations, because you are in the right place, my friends. Teaching should be fun. And learning should be fun. And that's what today is all about. It's about bringing the joy back into teaching with some specific and easy to use strategies, both for you and for your students. So as we think about education and we think about where we are, take a look at this photo for a moment. Does this look like you? I know as educators, many of us feel this way towards the end of the school year. So as you were finishing your school year last year, perhaps you felt like this. Perhaps you found yourself dragging towards that end of the year, or perhaps towards the end of each day and wondering, how much longer? How will I make it to the end of the day? How will I make it to the end of the year? And so if that happened, then that's okay. You're in good company. Fortunately, in the world of education, we do get a reboot, and we have the opportunity to get to start fresh. And even for those of us who loop with our students, we still get to start fresh every year. And that's one of the beauties of being an educator and being a teacher, is getting a fresh start. So even if this picture resonates with you, that's okay, because we still get to reboot, and even this pup will get his drink of water and he will get to feel good as he restarts. So I want you to imagine for a moment what it would feel like for your students to show up on time for class every day. And not only show up for class on time, but show up excited to learn and be paying attention. Not be paying attention because you bribed them, but just be paying attention because that was the right thing to do. And imagine for them to come with their homework done. And let's even go a step beyond that. Not only have their homework done, but have them turning in their homework. One of the things we know from research and from our own practice is that all of that starts on the first day of school. And so if we can figure out how to make the most of that very first day of school, then we set into motion the things that are going to lead to all of those first three factors happening. Kids showing up on time, them being excited to learn, paying attention, and doing the work that they need to do. So we're going to look at what can we do that very first day of school so that we are, in fact, getting the biggest bang for our buck and having students do what they need to do. So here's what you're going to learn today in our time together. The first thing you're going to be learning is how to set up your room for success. So how can we make that room work to our advantage? And how to engage our students and motivate them right from the get-go. So from the moment they walk in day one, how to get them motivated and engaged in learning. And then last, how to captivate them immediately. So how to capture that imagination and get them with us. So here's a yes/no question. Would you like your students to be more engaged? What would that be worth to you? How about this? Would you like to have more time for teaching? I think one of the things that we face as educators is the lack of time, or at least the perceived notion of lack of time. I work with educators all over the United States, and one of the things that I hear time and time again is we just don't have enough time. We're all in the same boat with that. So what if I told you We do have enough time. We have to just figure out how we're using the time and how we might use it a little bit more effectively so that we do have the time for teaching and learning, so that we do have the time to do the things that we want to do and that our students want to do. So we're going to be looking at some factors to take care of that. Now, to do that, we're going to be making a note-taking sheet because I firmly believe that in order to get students paying attention, we want them engaged right from the get-go. So we're going to be looking at 5 strategies today. And I'm going to stop sharing my screen so that you can see me. So give me just a moment here. So let's see. Give me one moment here. Okay. So if I were with my students, right, I could just give them a sheet of paper and I could say, take notes, okay? So one option is just to give a sheet of paper. Another option is to give them a handout. So we're going to be looking at 5 strategies. So I could have 5 strategies listed and I could say, take notes. But another option is I could have my students create a 3-dimensional graphic organizer, a foldable, to take notes. And whenever possible for me, I want my students to be as actively engaged as possible. Foldables come from the work of Dinah Zeik from Comfort, Texas. And Dinah is all about getting kids as kinesthetically involved as possible. And so what I'm going to invite you to do is actually make a foldable in order to take notes on these 5 strategies we're going to look at. So what you'll need is a sheet of paper. So I'll give you a moment to go ahead and grab a sheet of paper. It can be a piece of lined paper. This is a piece of colored paper. This is an 8.5 by 11, but you could use lined paper. You could use copy paper, whatever you've got is fine. And as you're grabbing that sheet of paper, I'll give you a little bit of background about myself. So as I said, my name is Amy Kynes. My company is Ready, Aim, Teach, and we give training all over the country. We work with educators from pre-K all the way through the high school level. My background, I taught both at the elementary and secondary level. I actually started teaching in San Antonio, Texas, where I taught as 4th grade at Foster Elementary School. From San Antonio, I moved back to Maryland, where I'm from, and I finished my career teaching for 25 years for Montgomery County Public Schools, where I taught, again, both elementary and middle school. I had the opportunity to teach reading and English at the secondary level and taught, again, elementary school. I also had the opportunity to be what's called a staff development teacher, which means that I was a non-classroom-based teacher. So I had the chance to get to work with teachers in a variety of classrooms. So I didn't have a home base of students, but I got to go in and work with classes across the whole school, which was really an honor and a privilege to get to see not only what one class was doing, but what all the classes were doing. And to help there be a consistent message and also see what great teaching looked like at a very primary level and then at an older kid level, and to be able to see a consistent message and also carry a consistent message. So from there, I was also a district-wide trainer, and I taught teachers throughout our county before starting my own company. So you can see our banner in the background. So it's one of our mottos is giving teachers the tools for success. And I'm really passionate about equipping educators with everything that you need to be successful, because as educators, we have incredible power. So after 25 years of being a public school educator, I started my own company, Ready, Aim, Teach, with just that passion in my heart and the belief that we could make a difference. And so for the past 3 years, we've been training teachers. People come to us or we come to you across the country, and we work with folks to help them feel more confident and ready to work with their students. So hopefully by now you've got a sheet of paper. If you don't, you can take notes on a computer. You can take notes just on a sheet of paper. I'm going to show you how to make this 3-dimensional graphic organizer. So this is called, it's a back fold, and I'm going to show you how to make this, okay? So to do it, I'm going to use 2 different colors of paper because it will be easier for you to see. When you're teaching your students how to make a back fold, we're going to be folding along the longer edge, and Dinah Zeik calls this a hot dog fold. So you're folding the long way. I'll come back so you can see that better. So it's the longer fold. Okay, so I folded the long way. Notice I didn't go all the way to the edge, so I've left a about a 1-inch section here. So if I were doing this with students' notebook paper, notice on this one, you've got the holes right here, so they could put this into a notebook. So if I were having older kids, I would use notebook paper. This can go right into their notebook. So it's a great, quick, easy, interactive thing for students. Even at the older kid level, they just stick it in their notebook. But if I want my students to be more actively engaged, instead of saying just take out a sheet of paper, I'm going to have them make a backfold because they're going to be more kinesthetically involved. And the more kinesthetically involved my students are, the more they're going to pay attention, quite honestly. Okay, so once you've made a backfold, basically I've got one tab, right? What I want to make is 6 tabs altogether, okay? Couple of options. I have scissors right here, so you can cut it. You can eyeball it if you want, and you can make it into 6 tabs. What I'm going to do, though, and I'm going to come back like this, I am going to fold it so that I know approximately where the 6 are. So I'm going to fold it down. And then when I open it up, I can now see where halfway is. So if you notice that I just folded it down and opened it up. Now I've got my halfway point. So for students, they would see that's the halfway mark, right? Okay. Now what I want to do, I could divide it in half, but like I said, we're going to look at 5 strategies. Dividing something in fifths is difficult, so we're going to divide it in 6ths instead. So I divided it in half. What I'm going to do now is divide it approximately into thirds from here. Thirds, I'm eyeballing it. I'm going approximately a third and approximately a third. A third down, a third up. I open it up, and I've got it in about 6 sections. And I'm going to click off this one sec so you can see now what it looks like. So if you notice here, here it is. This is just plain white paper, okay, in the 6th section, 6 sections. So what you can do, once you have it in your 6 sections, you can have students cut, or you can have them tear. I'm coming back here for one sec. So you can have them just tear the outside tab. I'm just going to go one color now. Okay. So, because what I want them to have is something 3-dimensional. So, I just tore one, right? I'm tearing a second one. I'm tearing a third one. This works much better, by the way, when you're not live on camera. Okay? Students can do it much better. You can also use scissors. What you're creating are 6 tabs. And the idea with foldables from Dynazyke are that foldables are 3-dimensional graphic organizers. So for students who are going to be taking notes on something, especially something that isn't necessarily kinesthetic, by having them take notes on something that is movable, it makes something that's not kinesthetic into something that's kinesthetic. So for something that is very dry, something that doesn't have any kind of movement, now all of a sudden this becomes more interesting for kids. Think about taking students on a field trip. If you've ever gone with your own children or you've gone with students on a field trip, like to a museum, students don't necessarily run to the painting on the wall that is just flat on the wall. Where they will run is to the place in the museum that has something that they can flip, open and shut, because they like that kinesthetic movement. A backfold, a 3-dimensional backfold is the same thing. And so that's why I thought this would be a nice way for us to be able to take notes today as we look at these 5 strategies. Okay. Again, if this doesn't work for you, don't feel like you need to use it. It's a nice option to be able to give students as a way to take notes. So what we're going to be looking at, as I said, are 5 different strategies to help students be successful. And the first one we're going to look at, number 1, is called Arrange for Success. So you can label the first tab Arrange for Success. And if you want to go ahead and label all your tabs, feel free. So number 1, Arrange for Success. Number 2 is called Poll the Audience. Number 3, Make a 1, 2, 3 connection. Number 4, Share a piece of yourself. And number 5, Get 'em moving. Remember, these are all strategies designed to capture students that very first day of school, because there's never a second chance to make that first impression. We want our students with us the very first day when they walk in. So the most proactive thing we can do in terms of getting our students with us is number 1, Arrange for Success. And what I mean by that is thinking about how we're setting up our classroom. So Arrange for Success means setting up my classroom in a way that I can walk around my classroom and be as close to as many students as possible as often as possible. So this is an example of an elementary school classroom. This particular classroom is set up for groups of 3. One of the beauties with my job now is that I do get to travel quite a bit and I get to take pictures wherever I go. So in our Ready, Aim, Teach Academy, I've got hundreds, literally hundreds of pictures that I can share with you of every grade level classroom and different ways that they've arranged the rooms and ways that work for large classes and small classes and very small classrooms and classrooms that are hard to get around. So that's kind of a nice benefit. But if you notice with this one, they're set up in groups of 3, but it's been arranged specifically so that a teacher can walk around quickly and easily to be able to get from any one student to any other student quickly. If you also notice, there are name tags already on the desks. And this is something I would definitely advocate for. I would always advocate for have students have a place to go the first day of school. Have their names on their desks before they walk in the very first day of school. Elementary level, have them have a place to go the first day of school. And I'll show you what I mean for that to look like at the secondary level in just a second. So elementary school, Arrange for Success, set it up. This is a quite spacious room. And again, in our academy, I show lots of different examples of how that might look in a more crowded room if you set it up in groups of 4 or 6s. At the secondary level, let's see if I can move this along. It might look something like this. So this is a secondary classroom. And instead of having them facing each other, the desks are all facing forward. And one of the things I wanted to point out here is if you notice, each of the desks has a number that is taped to the back of the desk. So it's using that white packing or that clear packing tape that's just taped so it's permanently on the desk, or relatively permanently on the desk. And what the teacher does first day of school, because again, we advocate every child needs to know that they have a place to go first day of school. So instead of just having the students walk in, when the students walk in the room, the teacher stands at the doorway and hands them a number. So they just hand them a card and the student goes and finds that desk. Next student comes, teacher hands them a card, they go into that desk. Next student, they sit at that desk. Secondary teachers, laminate these before you use them because then you can use them for every period. And you can do that like the first week of school until you get to know your students and then you can make your seating arrangements. First day of school, you have no idea who's going to be in your classrooms and kids are going to switch in and out until they're getting their schedules ready. So you probably don't want to make your permanent seats. But if you have cards like this is a great way to still send a message. You have a place here in my classroom. You belong here in my classroom. But this is also a place of business. And so when you come to my classroom, you've got a place, go find your place and let's get to work. So I like this example of a secondary classroom. And again, we've got lots more examples. And just quick and easy way to get their names or the numbers on the desks. Here's where you go, have a seat, and then we have something for them to do. So that's the first quick, easy strategy to get kids into their classrooms. And if you notice also, this teacher has arranged it so that she or he can quickly just walk up and down the aisles. They can get in and out and around to the students as quickly and easily as possible. So one of the things that we do in our Ready and Teach Academy, we have monthly webinars that we offer that are really tied to the specific strategies that are applicable for that month. So for example, our August, September, October is all about setting up your room and the routines that you use. So they're monthly, they're timely, and they're really about giving you what you need when you need it. So if you're thinking, oh, I would love to see more room arrangements or talk more about that, the Ready and Teach Academy may be a great match for you. Second strategy, number 2. So you can go back to your note-taking sheet. Number 2, survey the class. So on the outside, you can write, or I put poll the audience. Whichever title you like is fine. Poll the audience or survey your class. Again, we're thinking about ways to be proactive and how to grab your students right from the day one, right? We want to find out something about your students on the very first day of school. Because the more you know about them from the very first day, the more you can begin to make connections. So if I can find out something about every student, then I can begin to use those examples or that information in classroom examples. I can begin to ask questions about things, and I can begin to make connections, personal connections. So I can do a couple of different things. And by the way, to take notes on this, you can then open it up and you can be writing notes on the inside. So depending on the grade level you teach, you might have like a sheet of paper or an index card that you give kids, and they're filling out things. So they might be filling out my favorite things. So they might be writing about what their favorite kind of music is, their favorite food, their favorite book, their favorite movie. So I personally have 2 high school boys, and they might laugh if I ask them their favorite book, because they might choose to leave that blank at this stage in their educational career, or they may fill something out. I don't know. But I might ask a couple of questions. I might, however, just ask one question. And even at a secondary level, I might ask one question because I just want to get a little bit of information pretty frequently. So, for example, I might ask a question of the day. So if you notice this one, and I could just have an index card, I might just have an index card on desks, and students would just fill it out. Or if I've got electronic, if I've got Google Survey, Google Docs, if I've got another kind of electronic I can use, students can fill it out that way. So if I could meet a famous person I'd like to meet, students answer it. If I could put any pizza topping on a pizza I would put on, they'd fill it out. If I could travel anywhere in the United States I'd like to go. In addition to English, I also speak, and they fill in another language if they speak another language. And we also give them the option that if they don't speak another language, I say, English is the only language that I currently speak. We put in currently because there's a message that they may learn another language. Depending on their grade, they may be learning a couple more languages. So we can ask questions about outside interests. We can ask questions about their cultural diversity. We can ask questions about things about school. We don't want to overwhelm kids, so we don't want to ask like 52 questions on the first day of school, right? We want to ask maybe a question or 2. If I teach at the secondary level, I also want to talk to my teammates about what we're all going to be asking, because if you put yourself in the shoes of like a 6th grader, for example, 6th grader goes to first period and they fill out a survey that asks music, food, book, movie. Then they go to second period and the teacher asks music, food, book, movie. By the time they get to 7th period, where the teacher's still asking about music, food, book, movie, it has completely done the opposite effect that it was supposed to have. So we want to be really careful about making sure we're talking with our team about what kinds of questions we're asking. So sometimes we may just ask one question. So, but it's a great thing to have in our mind. what am I going to ask my students to find out about them? Before I even begin to share anything about myself, what am I going to find out about them? Maybe I'm asking them something about their name. Where does your name come from? Why are you named what you're named? And that may be a question I ask them for homework, because many kids don't know off the top of their head. So that may be something that they take home and they find out, and then they come back the next day. So in our Ready, Aim, Teach Academy, one of the benefits that we have in our academy, we have a resource vault. And in that vault, as a member, you have access to all kinds of sample surveys. So all of the documents we have there are yours either to use as they are or to edit. So we have examples of elementary surveys and of secondary surveys that you're more than welcome to use, as well as all kinds of different links to videos and articles and all kinds of other resources that you might use. So if you're thinking, oh my gosh, I wouldn't even know where to begin with surveys, again, the Ready, Aim, Teach Academy may be a really good match for you. Okay, number 3. Back to your note-taking sheet. Make a 1, 2, 3 connection. And I've heard this called lots of different things from lots of different researchers. 1, 2, 3 connection is what I'm calling it, but again, it's been called lots of different things. But the idea is that you're looking for a student who may be a tough nut to crack. So you're looking for a student who may potentially be a little disengaged this year, maybe a little unruly this year, may not like your course content. That's the student you're going for. 1, 2, 3 stands for this. One student. You're going to pick one student. You're going to make 2 connections with this student, and you're going to do that for 3 days in a row. 1 student, 2 connections for 3 days in a row. So I purposely picked this graphic here. So it might be a student who's really like a disorganized kind of a kid, right? Or maybe like a really quiet, sullen, recluse kind of a kid. It might be a really obnoxious kind of a kid. There's a lot of different students who may be very disengaged. Disengagement may look very different. So you're going to choose that student who could present either a problem or a challenge. So pick your student and then make an effort to make 2 connections with that child. The connection can be as simple as just saying hi. So, hi, Brady, how are you? That's 1 connection. It could be a nonverbal connection. It could just be looking at them, making sure you make eye contact with them and smiling. That can be a connection. It could be nodding to them. It could be saying goodbye at the end of the day. If they're wearing like a sports jersey for a team, you could ask them, hey, do you like the Patriots? Do you like the Redskins? So you may make a connection like that with them. But you make a concerted effort to make 2 connections with that student. At the elementary level, if you have the children all day, that can be 2 connections throughout the whole day. At the secondary level, if you only have your kids for like a period, so if you have them for 40 minutes, you're making 2 connections within that 40 minutes. And you do it for 3 days in a row. 1 student, 2 connections for 3 days in a row. You will be amazed at the difference that will make. And once you've done it with that one child, pick the next kid. Do it for another child. And then do it for another child. And then just keep building, because once you've done it and you see how powerful this is, it's amazing how it becomes almost addictive for you. And you think, oh my gosh, this worked. I'm going to keep doing it. You can do it in 1 class, and then in your next period, you can pick another student, your next period, another student. My only suggestion, if you teach multiple periods a day, keep track of who your students are and keep track of what your day 1, day 2, day 3s were. So, because otherwise you make it mixed up in terms of how many days. But keep it easy. Just like keep it on an index card, or just if you keep a plan book, electronic or regular, just kind of keep a note for yourself who you're keeping contact with. And this is a great thing to share with teams of teachers so that other people can try this also. So the idea is 1, 2, 3. 1 student, 2 connections, 3 days in a row. And when you do this one, we would love to hear the impact that this has, because it always is so heartwarming to hear the difference that this makes, not only for the student, but the difference it makes for you and for the climate in your classroom, because this can be a real game changer. Okay, number 4. So number 4 is share a piece of yourself, right? So students need to know who that person is who is going to be leading the class. whether for 6 hours or for 40 minutes. So maybe you're sharing a photo the first day. So this is a picture of my family when we went out to the Grand Canyon a couple years ago. So maybe you're just showing a picture saying, hey, my family loves to travel. Here's us at the Grand Canyon. Maybe you share a story to go with it. So I could share how my boys just raced down to the bottom and then raced back up to the top. And then I, kind of came puffing and puffing back up to the top. And they thought it was absolutely hysterical. What a hard time I had, keeping up with it. That's your decision. And it kind of depends also how much time you have. You may share if there's a sports team. So I'm a diehard born and bred Redskin fan. So I'm sorry if I offend any of the Cowboy fans out there, but we are born and bred Redskin fans here. So you may share a connection to a sports team. You may share a favorite food you have or a sport that you love. There's all kinds of different things that you can share. And again, I would share a piece each day over a period of days so that students are beginning to see you as a real life person also. A little piece at a time will go a long way. So if you're doing this one along with the 1, 2, 3 connection, what you're doing is you're building strong climate right from the get-go. So here's another picture. Swimming is a huge thing in my family. So that's one of my sons. This is a picture of him swimming. And so I would share the important role swimming plays in our whole family's life. And I might share, the success that they had this summer in their swimming world. And then the last suggestion for starting with a bang is to get them moving. Day 1, get them up and moving. And up and moving, if you notice here, up and moving doesn't mean they have to stand up. So it could mean that they get up and they go and they sit down on the floor. So these are actually pictures from workshops that we give. But teachers are just like kids. We need to move, especially the first day back from vacation. Kids need to move. They are not used to having to come back and sit in very uncomfortable chairs for a whole day, for 42 minutes. It's a killer for them. So if we can get them up and moving, they will remember that in your class, they got to move. Now, this doesn't mean we're saying, okay, guys, take a break. What we're doing, so for example, in this picture here of the 2 gentlemen, they did a hand up, stand up, pair up where they went and they met with a partner, they they stood up, they paired up with somebody, and they debriefed an article that they had read. So they met very purposely and had a conversation about content. So it can be very purposeful. They're standing up with each other. So we used a Kagan cooperative learning strategy. In the picture here with the 4 of them sitting on the floor, they are having a conversation about something that they had read and they're sharing information. So they may be up and moving, they may be sitting somewhere else, but we want to build movement into the day immediately, day 1. One of the things we know, however, is that when we have students get up and move, it's going to be a little bit more chaotic. So if it's going to be chaotic, we need to teach the routine for what it looks like to get them up and moving. So in our Ready and Teach Academy, in that very first webinar, we look at how do we teach routines? What is that going to look like? What's it going to feel like? What's the best way to quickly teach my students the routine of moving? Because kids need to move. And if I don't have them move, they're going to find a way to move on their own. So it might as well be me. Right? I might as well get them moving on my own. So let's get them moving, but let's get them moving productively. So again, the Ready and Teach Academy might be a great place for you to learn more about how do we get them moving in a way that's not going to suck out the time from teaching and learning, but instead it's going to enhance the time that we have for teaching and learning. So we've mentioned the Ready and Teach Academy several times, and I just wanted to give you just a little bit more information about what's in there. So along with the webinars that we have every month, and those are live webinars that you can either be on live with us where you'll be able to interact and there's going to be lots of polling the audience and questions and charting things. You'll also be able to come back to those webinars whenever you want. So you'll have 24-hour access to them. So in addition to that, and also in addition to the resource vault, we will also have a 1-hour coaching session for every one of our Academy members, which means you'll have the opportunity to meet virtually one-on-one with one of our executive staff members, because we know that teaching can be really isolating. So oftentimes, once the school year begins, you don't have that person to sit down either physically or virtually, one-on-one, and just have a conversation with. So we offer that to you because we know how critical that can be, and just that opportunity to bounce ideas off can really make a huge difference in your career. So you may be thinking, okay, what now? Gosh, my head's spinning. I got all these ideas. So my suggestion is to join our Ready Aim Teach Academy. You're going to be getting some information after this webinar about how to do that. And that is, I think, the best thing for you to do. But also, here's our contact information. You can email us anytime, and we will continue to keep in touch with you. I so appreciate you joining us for this very quick webinar where you've got some information now. You also learned a new foldable. One of the things you can do, if you notice we did not use that 6th tab, so you can write yourself a note about the one thing you are going to guarantee that you do, right? So what is the one takeaway, the thing I promise to do? First week back, what's the one thing I can make a commitment that I'm going to do, right? So we would love for you to connect with us. So send us an email. Let me know, what did you like about this? What is the thing you think, oh my gosh, that's going to change my teaching this year? That's the thing I think could really make a difference. Or that's what's going to connect with the student that I didn't connect with last year. That's the thing that was missing. You can connect with us via email. You can go to our website. We've got a blog there. We've got all kinds of resources on our website. And you can also follow us on Twitter and connect with us on Twitter. We try to make that really interactive as well. So we look forward to hearing from you and connecting, and thank you so much. But most importantly, thank you for what you do every day for your students, because you make a huge difference. You make a huge difference for now, and you make a huge difference for our future. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Bye-bye.